Drawing two complex shapes that mirror each other in perspective is not an easy thing to do, but is a necessary skill for drawing animals and characters that have horns. For character and creature design, you need to make choices in designing the horns that work with and complement everything else. I'd like to cover both of these things, starting with creative design. Just like for pretty much anything else, references will really help. There are many different animals that have horns, and so a lot of variety in the way they can look that you might not consider if just working from memory. There's also alternatives that are similar to horns, but look and function a bit differently. Antlers are one, and another is ossicones, which is what giraffes have. Even though in real life they generally come in twos, when it comes to creative design, you get to choose whatever you feel works best. One horn, like a unicorn, or maybe 3 or more, is a fun option to try. Asymmetry is also something to experiment with, although you should be careful to not overdo it. If one horn is significantly longer or sticking out in a wildly different direction, it might start to look awkward and as if the creature or character would have a difficult time standing upright with the unbalanced weight. You may instinctively use perfectly round, tapering shapes, sort of like a cone, but a lot of horns aren't that way. The shape might be more flattened, like an oval, as well as have indents or creases. Most horn shapes will also have some kind of twist to them, whether it's a subtle turn of the form or dramatic, repeated twisting that goes around fully multiple times. Here's a couple more references that I like, which show how unique the shape and twisting of the horns can be. They can also stick out back, forward, or to the sides, as well as pointing up or hanging down. The standard shape language rules are useful for designing horns that convey something about who or what they belong to. Use sharp and angular shapes if you're going for a dangerous look, and more rounded if aiming for something more friendly. Breaks are another way to make them asymmetrical if that's what you want, and also gives off toughness, especially if the horns are thick and don't look like they would break easily. Textures and details aren't a requirement, at least for more simplified styles, but will generally be a great addition. Ridges can be very small and closely packed together, or big and spread out. Instead of only straight lines, they can have a sort of squiggle to them, and may also form bumps that don't wrap all the way around the horn. Ossicones have skin and fur, and on giraffes this fur has two distinct colors. There aren't many other real-world examples, so the color and length of the fur is something you might like to experiment with beyond what you can find in references. Antlers are unlike horns in that they can shed and regrow, and when growing, they're covered in what's called velvet, which is what makes them look fuzzy. Now for the difficult part, which is drawing the horns at any angle other than at a direct front view. A common solution to any situation with tricky perspective is using boxes as a base for more complicated objects. You could draw a box that the horns would fit perfectly inside of, and to draw a horn that mirrors the first, match the areas where the first horn touches the side of the box on the opposite end. Or maybe draw a few boxes that make up the general shape of the horns. Since boxes are a much easier shape to mirror, this would allow you to figure out what the second horn should look like without getting as confused by how the angles should translate. Drawing in a plane as a guideline is a similar solution. If you want to have this plane be curved, you can add in grid lines to suggest that. In my video about trees, I talked about using curving scribble lines to suggest the direction that a tree trunk is leaning in space, either towards or away from the viewer. This is something you can do as you sketch out horns as well, and it makes it much easier to convey them as 3D objects in the rough sketch phase without needing any detail or form shadows. If you have a subject you plan to redraw at multiple angles, or if you just want the most accurate perspective you can achieve, using a program like Blender to 3D model them would save you a lot of trouble and difficulty in the long run. The things you would need to learn would be basic shape editing, maybe sculpting, and using a symmetry modifier. Alternatively, if you have some clay on hand, you could also use that to help you visualize your shape and how it would look from different angles. Here are some more videos you might find helpful. Thanks for watching!